Every single thing that every coach ever has to tell you is available on the internet. There's no proprietary, I didn't create this proprietary secret that's going to change your entire business. Everything is on the internet. The difference is that you hire people and coaches and mentors is because it shortcuts the entire process.
1000%. It's shortcuts, and then they can almost curate all of that information specific to your business.
Yep.
Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Brad Hebner from Hammer and Grind. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing good, Steve. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. We just recently connected on Facebook, and I love what you got going on with mentoring, coaching contractors, construction companies. Why don't you tell everybody about your background? How'd you get started as a contractor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was one of those people that had like a bunch of jobs out of high school and went in the military trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And I went to, in high school, I took architectural drawing for 2 years, my junior, senior year.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to be an architect. Realized my senior year that you actually had to have good grades to be an architect. So
yeah. They make it really hard to be an architect. You know that, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So went in the military. Long story short, I found myself several years after getting out into working for a construction management company. I actually went backwards, Steve. I started out as a superintendent, and then I became a construction manager, and we were doing residential, light commercial projects. And the guy I was working for kind of started having some financial troubles, right, which is not uncommon for contracting companies. And I ended up going to work for the carpenter, who was our subcontractor, and started there for a few years, and then just started my own business. And I started out as a handyman because didn't have any money. It's like, I can do this. Eventually switched over into remodeling, and then I've always loved doing woodworking as well. So we did a lot of custom cabinets, built-in cabinets, shelving, all that stuff, fireplace surrounds.
Yeah.
And then about 11 years later, after being in having my own business, I started doing coaching, and here we are today.
That's awesome, man. And so you're out of the contracting space. Do you still have that company, or you?
I still technically own the company and the license. I'm not currently operating it at the moment.
You have somebody else operating it?
No, I did shut it down temporarily 2 years ago, and then actually a year ago, and then I started doing coaching full time. This was really more the direction I wanted to go. I'm more passionate about the coaching than I am about the business. I do have some aspirations of starting some other construction style businesses. So I wouldn't say I'm fully out of it yet.
You're not out of the game yet.
Not out of the game yet.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to keep your toe in, so because it also makes your as a coach, it makes your the advice a little bit more relevant, even though that you have tons of experience, but you can still. So tell us, before you sort of not completely walked away from the contracting business, what kind of work was the most profitable for you?
Well, so from a purely marginal standpoint, actually doing handyman work was more profitable. I mean, I was getting 70-80% gross profit on small jobs. Yeah. It's called small jobs. But we did a lot of high-end style work. So a lot of people think handyman is like, the retired guy in a beat-up truck working for $20 an hour. I mean, we were charging $100 an hour.
Like a tool belt with his tool belt that's dragging his pants down. But
yeah. I mean, that's the typical thought. But no, I mean, we were licensed, bonded, insured. I was a general contractor. I mean, I had the license to build a house. All of that stuff. I mean, we were doing high-end stuff.
That's cool. That's very cool. What were some of the challenges that you had to go through in order to build that business?
So what I learned later on, if I had to do it over, I would not start a handyman business, as crazy as that sounds, because if you're wanting to stay small, if you want to stay like a one-man show, it's a great business because you'll never run out of work. And you can easily do six figures and paying yourself in that business. But I always thought of myself as a business owner first,
Yeah.
and a handyman or carpenter or tradesman second.
Yeah.
And so trying to scale a handyman business is very difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that perspective, remodeling is a lot more attractive type of business because you can subcontract everything if you want or have employees.
For sure.
So that was some of the frustrations, was really trying to scale a business where you need to have someone who has 5 or 6 decent skill sets to be able to do all of the things that you do. I always tell people when I hired them, I said, the best thing about what we do is that we're not doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about what we do is we're not doing the same thing every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like kind of like in the wood furniture, it's like you can't scale custom really, right? Like, and especially if you are small. Well, I mean, we're both coaches, so what's your thought on like staying small versus growing a real business? Like what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, you hear people say like, "Oh, you're not a real business if you don't do X." I mean, if you have a legitimate license to operate a business and you're working on your own, I mean, I think you own a business, and I think we need to give people credit for that. Now,
Sure.
Does that compare to like owning Amazon? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But my thoughts are you can be small and be a lifestyle contractor.
Yeah.
Meaning you might only have 2 or 3 employees.
Yeah.
But you're doing 6 figures in owner salary, and you're taking off when you want to, and you're having all the nice things.
Sure.
Some people though, they want to scale because it for whatever reason they want to prove people wrong, or they just want to create, and then that's a little bit different story, right? Where you may have 20 employees, 100 employees in multiple locations. I think it really comes down to the individual and what their life goals are.
Who do you like to work with?
Who do I like to work with? With coaching, I typically work with guys that are doing under 1 million in revenue, and they're usually still on the tools part-time. They may have anywhere from 1 to 3 employees or more.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to get off the tools and create a business that does work for them.
For sure. How does give me 3-4 things that folks need to do to start getting off the tools and more on the business end?
Yeah, great question. I actually I do a webinar. It's called How to Get Off the Tools.
Yeah.
But the first step is you have to really change your mindset. You have to switch from being a tradesman into a business owner.
Yeah.
Because they're really 2 different mindsets.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
That's the first step you have to do. The next thing is you have to price your work accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 90% of the contractors I talk to are underpricing their work.
Yeah.
90% of them.
Yeah. 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 And then as what do you find is the biggest sort of roadblock around mindset?
It's I can't charge more in my town. There's people that are cheaper than I am. My clients won't pay this much. I can't find good help.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
If those were all true, then nobody would be in business.
It's very true. And I think a lot of times too, people bring a lot of their own baggage or other people environmental baggage as a belief. There's just so many talented people out there that they don't necessarily think that they deserve more than what they're actually given. Don't you find that to be the case?
Absolutely. I don't know if it's blue collar. I don't know if you find this to be true in the woodworking space as well, but a lot of the guys that are in blue collar in these trades are, I don't want to say damaged goods, but a lot of them do have like stuff in their history, you know what I mean, that makes them feel less than.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember when I saw your blueprint, you mentioned mindset, and I'm like, it's so funny. I talk to people a lot, and they're like, yeah, I really want to grow. I just need more leads, or I need more this, and you're like, you need to fix a mindset, and then once you fix what's internal, then you got to fix what's external afterwards, right? And because they oftentimes people think that if you just throw more leads into a business that it's going to magically help, when that's not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you can get a bunch of bad leads. Like you could scale your leads and get 20 leads a week, and they're all bad, and now you have to sift through them. So it's there is definitely, you have to have the right minds, and this is why the first step that we do is fix the mindset. And
Yeah.
it's not attractive, right? It's not the
Not
sexy thing.
attractive
Like,
at all.
nobody wants to think they have to fix their mindset. And so a lot of guys, you probably know this too. There's a lot of pride and ego in the craftsman's, right? Like I
Yeah,
built this
yeah.
entire house. Look
I
at
can
this.
do everything. I
Yeah,
literally could do everything. There's no way I could build a website if you give
yeah,
me time. I can sharpen tools if you give me time. I could do everything. It's so
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
yeah. That's it, man. And then trying to say like, yeah, you can, but why? Like,
Oh, why? Yeah.
why would you want to do everything? I'm guilty of this. Like I've built websites. I've done all the marketing. Like
Sure.
I love to learn. Like I'm constantly learning new things.
Yeah.
But as I've getting older and getting more into the coaching, I realize like as much as I like to learn how to build websites, it doesn't help me. It doesn't serve my purpose, right? It doesn't further the business. So getting the right mindset and losing the ego and realizing like, and here's what I tell people all the time. Every single thing that every coach ever has to tell you is available on the internet. There's no proprietary, I didn't create this proprietary secret that's going to change your entire business. Everything is on the internet. The difference is that you hire people and coaches and mentors is because it shortcuts the entire process.
1,000%. 1,000%. It's shortcuts, and then they can almost curate all of that information specific to your business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, go back to your business, like, what would you have done differently? So you said you wouldn't have started a handyman. You would have went into remodel. Like, what else would you have done?
Yeah. So the name of my business was called Team Handy.
Okay.
So I branded it as a handyman business, and I really set it up so that I could franchise it. Now, this was way early before I knew anything about franchising and how hard that is.
Yeah.
But it really did look like a franchise. As a matter of fact, I get asked all the time, "Are
Like
you a
the
franchise?"
branding and everything, it looked like on point.
Yeah, the branding was on point, and that really helped me with marketing.
For sure.
But the
Yeah.
problem is that if you're marketed as a handyman business, it's harder to get remodeling customers to take you serious
Yeah.
because of that stigma of being a handyman business. And so,
Yeah.
if I had to redo it, I would have changed the brand. I would have marketed it more as a general contracting, or if I really knew, I would have like picked a specific niche like bathroom remodeling, and I would have named it something closer to that.
Yeah.
There's riches in the niches, so going back, I would have really, really niched down on like one specific thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you think about the different sort of opportunities that exist for contractors in 2023, like what things are you noticing from your clients, whether it's the marketplace, the economy, services, like what are folks, what trends are you seeing on your end?
I mean, I don't care what you start. I don't care what type of business you do. As long as you have good service,
Yeah.
like there's no reason you can't be successful.
Yeah.
Like just answering the phone, as silly as that sounds, will separate you from the majority
Yeah.
of the people out there.
Yeah. 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 No, I think the folks, I found that folks that are the most responsive get the most business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a common thing that like, oh, I have to answer the phone. Like if I'm working on a job, if I'm building something, I'm out in the shop working, if a phone comes in, I have to answer it or I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
Should you answer it if you can? Absolutely. But is it critical that you answer it? No, it's not. I mean, most people, especially if it's larger base projects,
Yeah.
if somebody wants custom built-in bookcases, they're not just gonna hire the first person that answers the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If my toilet's leaking and I got water spraying everywhere, the first person that answers the phone is getting the work, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an emergency.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
depending on what you do, like as long as you have a process in place, that the person reaching out to you knows like this is the next step, whether it's a voicemail message or whatever. As long as you have that laid out for them,
Yeah.
most people are open to that.
Are you seeing, is the economy affecting any of your clients or people that in your space?
Not really, because it's most of my clients operate at a level above most people.
Yeah.
Like they're not they don't watch the news.
Yeah.
You know, if the internet didn't exist and there was no TV, there would be no such thing as a depression or recession because people wouldn't even know how to act differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so really if you ignore that and you really just put yourself out there as a high quality business, no matter what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're going to find business as long as you're branded correctly and you market your business correctly. And this ties into like knowing your customer avatar, right? Like I don't care what you do. I don't care if you sell, baskets on the side of the road. Like knowing who your customer avatar is so critical.
Yeah.
So that you're not wasting your time and energy on people that are never going to hire you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do this pretty obnoxious thing that I know people eye roll. Like some of my clients, they eye roll when I tell them, it's like, what do you think your clients do on the weekends? What kind of car are they driving? Like, what's their lifestyle? Because then you can start to speak to them and their lifestyle so that when you put out a message, when you're communicating with them, they know that you're talking directly to them, right? Knowing your customer avatar is crucial. You know what I actually really love about just contractors is that the work that they do adds value to people's arguably their most important asset. And so the value is much higher, and therefore, I mean, it may take a little bit longer, but like the impact of that it's basically like, like in high ticket coaching, it's a high ticket product, right? What impact do you think you'd like to have on the people that you work with?
This is one of the reasons why I got into coaching. It's great to remodel a bathroom or a kitchen, and the customer's like, "Oh, Brad, this is so wonderful. We love it." You get all that praise and adoration, and that lasts about a week, right?
Yeah.
When I'm working with clients, especially ones that are struggling, like they come in, they're on what I call the crazy cycle. They're working 60, 80 hours a week just to make bare minimum money. And we do a few tweaks and they make some changes, and all of a sudden they're making money hand over fist like they've never thought was possible. And they're only working, 50 hours a week. It's like overnight almost.
Yeah.
Their life changes. That is rewarding. Like I'll get personal messages like, "Man, thank you so much. Like you don't even realize what you've done for our family, blah, blah." Like that alone is worth the price for me. Yeah. And why I love doing coaching so much more than remodeling.
For sure. How have you, or what strategies have you seen for people to get into hiring? Because there's obviously like a talent gap and a skills trade gap, right? Like how are you advising people around hiring?
Yeah, hiring is definitely difficult. I'm not saying like I said earlier, like it's a limiting belief that you can't find good help.
Yeah,
that is a limiting belief. It is definitely more difficult, right, to find good help. However, you need to treat hiring just like you do marketing for clients, right? So you have to attract people to your business.
Yeah.
If I'm working for a contractor, let's say I'm a carpenter and maybe I'm a second in command. I'm a journeyman carpenter, and I've been at this company for 3 or 4 years, and they have a lead guy, and like he's not going to retire anytime soon.
Yeah.
I have nowhere to go. Like I either have to stay, and if I have initiative and I want to grow myself, I have to look for another opportunity. Yeah. Right. And so if I'm out there looking on the boards, I need to find a company that's like has the type of culture and looks attractive to me. And so if I see that, now I'm curious. Now I want to go and at least talk to them and find out more information, because the the people that are going to be good employees, they're not sitting at home unemployed on a couch searching the Indeed job boards
Yeah.
and just happen to find that they're working for someone else.
Yeah. The good
And you have to
people are working.
steal them away.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you really have to steal
Oh
them
my God.
away from the company
I
they're
said
at.
this to a client and he was like, oh, he felt unethical. I was like,
Yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
I was like, you're not stealing people away. I was like, you're presenting an opportunity and it's on them in order to
Yeah.
do it, right?
If I rode up to a job site, a competitor's job site, and said, "Who here wants $5 more an hour?" and I steal 3 employees, I would say that's unethical.
That's unethical. Yeah. Yeah.
But if I post a job online or create a video and put it on my Facebook page and run an ad or something,
Yeah.
and a guy working for someone else sees that,
Yeah.
it's not unethical.
That's not unethical. Yeah.
You're meeting them at a place where they're unhappy where they're at, and you're providing the solution for the change.
You know, another thing that I thought of, I had a client that he was able to hire somebody from a different state because realizing
Yeah.
that there may be somebody that is your ideal customer that is in a state away that is looking for a new opportunity, new life. And so I always tell people to like broaden their horizon as it relates to hiring because there might be somebody out there, right?
I'll give you a good tip here. A good place to find a good worker, not so much a skilled worker, but a good laborer is the restaurant industry. Cooks and chefs and all those.
Yeah.
They work crappy hours. They work crappy conditions, usually for crappy pay, and they're very hard workers.
Yeah.
I had one of my employees was a cook, like a line, short whatever they call it, short order cook or whatever, line cook. And he turned out to be a great employee. He didn't have a ton of skill, but he was a great employee and had the ability to learn quickly.
That's awesome. Any last bit of parting advice for the Woodpreneur community on sort of mindset growing your business?
I think one of the first things that we do when a client comes in is I have them do a lifestyle design worksheet. It's like, what do you really want in life? Like lay out.
Yeah.
What kind of house do you want? What kind of car do you want to drive? How do you want to retire? And then we assign dollar amounts to all that.
Yeah.
So if you want a $1 million house on the 40 acres, that might cost you $2 million depending on where you live. And then you back that out and figure out what's it going to cost me to live. And that's the starting point for deciding like what your pricing is going to be for your business.
Yeah.
And this idea the guy down the street can do the exact same thing for $5,000. When you do that, you become a commodity.
Yeah.
Right? When you compete on price, you become a commodity. So figure out what you really want.
Yep.
Figure out what it's going to cost to obtain that, and then structure your business in a way that's going to allow you to do that. And that may mean that you have to raise your prices. It might mean you have to hire more people.
Yep.
It might mean you have to offer different services. But at least you have a starting point now of where you need to go to, and everything else is just backwards, engineered.
Awesome. So tell everybody how they can get in touch. You got your own podcast. Tell everybody about your podcast and how they could follow you.
Yeah, I do have my own podcast called the Hammer and Grind Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Just search for Hammer and Grind Podcast. And then you can also visit my website if you want to find out more information about my services. It's hammerandgrind.com.
Brad, thank you so much for taking the time. And, Brad and I do similar things. He's more on the contractor end, but I wanted to get his expertise on here and go and check him out and see what he does if you are on the more in the remodel contractor space. But dude, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate and check out his podcast. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Steve. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Take care.